Welcome back to Modern Art Blitz. I'm your host, Matt Gleason. Later in the show, Tosh Berman. But right now, we have as our guests, Bruce Licher and Stuart Swezey. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey. Pleasure.
So, Stuart, you have produced, directed? What have you done?
What have I
What
done?
have you done? You've made a new film.
I'm working on a film.
You are working on a film.
So in the past, I did produce a documentary called Better Living Through Circuitry, but this is the first project that I'm actually directing. So I'm producing and directing it with help from lots of other people.
And the title is?
Title is Desolation Center. And,
wow.
And it's about the story of these desert concerts that started out with Bruce and I together. The first one was called Mojave Exodus, and we took 3 busloads of punk rock, post-punk, industrial music fans out to a dry lake bed.
They had no idea where they were going.
That's right, an
really?
undisclosed
Like they thought they were
location.
going to a club in Hollywood, maybe?
No, they knew they were going to the desert, but it was basically go see the Minutemen and Savage Republic at an undisclosed location in the Mojave Desert.
Oh, so they knew they were going at least like
on a school bus.
Yeah, because I remember hearing about this going, there's no way I'm going to, I don't do nature. Okay,
Yeah.
So now what year are we talking?
1983.
83. That's a long time ago. 34 years.
That's true.
Like 34-year-olds now are twice the age of the average person who went to these, and they were just born.
Your math is just way...
help me. Yes. Just get me to the blackjack table.
This is just an art show.
Yeah. So you have ample documentation of these.
We do. I mean, it's actually been an amazing process of finding the photography and video and getting it all decumulated, so that we now have an art show at Cornelius Projects in
San Pedro,
which is a documentation of the whole series of concerts.
Lori Steeling's gallery?
It is Lori Steeling's.
Yeah,
she does not call it a gallery. A gallery.
What is it? It's a projects.
It's a space, apparently.
Who's Cornelius?
Her dad.
Who's
no longer with us.
Happy Father's Day, Cornelius. Yeah, wherever you are.
But yeah, he was apparently like a brilliant physicist or something like that. Anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, chemist possibly.
So we're looking at photos here. Let's see. Can we get this photo here? What are we looking at?
Okay. Well, that is the very first desert show.
Can we just see the photo? There we go.
Hey.
Who's this playing?
Savage Republic.
Well, there you have it.
SR1.
SR1. Okay, cool.
And so there they are out on the dry lake bed, and that's kind of was the original setting. It's a photo by a friend of mine, Joy Abbott, and so they were playing on. Bruce, what were the instrumentation there?
Well, we had bass, 2 guitars, keyboards. We had Robert Lovelace on keyboards, and then we had our oil drum, basically. So that photo looks like Philip Drucker playing, or Jackson Doe Ray, as he liked to be called, playing percussion on the oil drum.
Wow.
So a lot of these early Savage Republic photographs, because we switched instruments so much and every song was kind of unique, I can look at a photo and I can tell you what song we're playing.
Wow.
Because of what instrument they're playing and how they're playing.
I don't play on this song, so if I'm in the photo, then okay.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. So how long was Savage Republic together?
The original band formed in 1981 and went up till 1983, and then we started losing members and splitting apart. But
happens to bands a lot.
I kept it going through 1989.
89. So it could have just been Bruce Licher and the Savage Republic playing people at some point, or
something like that.
Yeah?
But
okay.
Actually, the guys that I brought into it, most of who came into it after 2 original members left, stayed in it longer than the original original members. I was the only original member that stayed the whole time.
That's bad. And so, is Savage Republic available on iTunes?
Some of it is.
Some of it is. Some of it isn't.
Actually, I believe all of that 80s stuff is on iTunes.
Any chance a box set, the complete Savage Republic, coming out?
Well, there was in 2002. Ethan Port, who was one of the people who came in '84. Basically, through his record label, Mobilization Recordings, did reissues of all of the albums that we did.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
Those are kind of sold out at this point.
Well,
it could come together again.
Kind of sold out. Now we're looking at something that Stuart was involved with prior to becoming the big-time film producer he is today. And this is
way prior.
The legendary.
It still hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, Yes, we're still in that transition zone. Would you hurry up with the transition? This is the AMOK Dispatch, the 4th dispatch here.
That's the
classic.
classic.
How many of those did you print?
We ultimately did 5.
Did 5.
But that's the one that had my favorite cover. So
Yeah.
and we actually, speaking of modern art, Blitz, Jim Shaw, who collected all those thrift store paintings, loaned us that image, and that's become sort of a classic. And so it's not in his book, which is because he's like, I already put it on the cover of your AMOK Dispatch.
Hey, very. Now, for the legions of our teenage fans and maybe even our 30-something fans who would have no idea of what the AMOK Dispatch or AMOK Books was, tell us, Stuart. Tell us about AMOK.
Well, before there was the internet. It was actually, there was a time before there was the internet. Well, I guess the internet, but before the web existed, et cetera, it was really hard to get information, and it was sort of things that were particularly extreme or suppressed. So we kind of like took the whole gamut of what we called extreme information, which could have been conspiracy theories, psychedelic information, things to do with true crime, but we also repurposed things like that were supposed to be for scientific people, like forensic pathology books. Okay, that was before CSI, and you could go to the AMOK bookstore and you could buy the color atlas of forensic pathology or things like that.
If you wanted to look at gross pictures of
right. So it came out of really the roots of the whole thing in a way was the Industrial Culture Handbook, which is even before AMOK Books, which was research publications. So it was out of this whole idea of making all this information available, and it was kind of a whole aesthetic. And then also there was other things that were influenced by like situationists, anarchists, and but we also presented a lot of different material that you would never see in a bookstore, and so it became kind of a way for people
with net neutrality kind of going to be going away soon, maybe this stuff's going to be having to come back.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it has come back in all kinds of ways. Conspiracy has almost become mainstream in a certain way.
Exactly.
And so it's not as funny as maybe it was back then.
To believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone is kind of like, oh, man, that guy's like a radical kook. Don't talk to him,
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think there's still a very important function of not suppressing information, but whether it be now in the form of WikiLeaks or other things, the technology has moved on. But what we were doing was sort of this aesthetic that...
How long did you have the AMOK bookstore?
10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that went by fast.
It didn't for me.
I was sitting there.
I was thinking about Malcolm McLaren, who managed the Sex Pistols, had his store for 6 months.
The sex store was only open for 6 months?
Yeah, and launched the Sex Pistols out of that.
Oh, man.
So,
they had
10 years.
It's easy. I've been a gallery for 5 years, and it's like, come on, speed this thing up. Wow. So now, AMOK, there's still these dispatches in print out there.
Yes.
Are they ever for sale, like on eBay for $1,000 or?
I've seen, them be treated as collectibles, and there's the art book fair, which happens in downtown LA, and like some of the early dispatches are there as these like kind of
rare books now.
Right. Yeah. The ephemera. You know what I mean? Which is great. I'm glad that people.
And who was your partner in the business?
Well, there was originally it was Mariska Lacius and Brian King, and that was pretty much the 3 of us. But it was almost like probably a collective of 10 people at the beginning.
Okay.
Maria Montgomery was part of it. Lisa Derrick,
the legendary Lisa Derrick.
So I won't rattle off all of them, but anyway, and then it kind of evolved to the point where it was just pretty much me doing the
shit work.
Hanging in there.
You get all the glory. I do all the shit work.
Well, no, I mean just it's hard to run things collectively.
Okay, so fill us in the gap now.
Yes.
You're making movies now. AMOK closed in late 90s?
Yeah, well, it was kind of transitioned to another guy who was part of Dan Winninger, kept it going for a while, next to the Dresden Room in that location. And then he sort of evolved to doing his own thing called AMOK Books. But
what did you do between your involvement with AMOK and your fabulous film directing career here?
Well, I worked for the Sci-Fi Channel. Oh. I was a VP of development for original productions, during which time, they did Deadliest Catch. Well, I guess they still are. Wow. I developed Ice Road Truckers during that time.
Wow, you are Ice Road Truck. Did you ever have to get in one of the trucks?
They never let me go up to the Northwest Territories.
We need you here.
But yeah, it was interesting. Put together the team that went up there.
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So,
Okay. So you worked in the industry, and now the chance to make. No, you made one movie before this.
well, I produced a documentary. A friend of mine, John Reese, used to do all the Survival Research Laboratories documentaries, and we can talk about that because they're part of the whole Desolation Center thing. But he did a film about rave culture, like what's called EDM now, so this was in the late 90s. And I wanted to learn more about filmmaking, so I kind of jumped in. I ended up getting to be the producer with another guy, Brian McNeilis, of that. So that was like my and film producing experience, and then I worked in TV for 10 years, and so I'm sort of putting it all together
Put it
to
all
do
together
this
now.
film.
And since you were part of this, did you when you were producing these events in the desert, were you taking movie cameras out with you?
You know what? I was sort of not really having access. Back then in the 80s, it was hard to have a video camera, or you know what I mean? You needed to like find the people that could get you the gear and that kind of thing. So what ended up happening is that I gave people access to shoot it, or I gave them seats on the bus in some cases. And it was really hard to get the footage after that. So now that all this time has gone by, I've found that people are a lot more open to like.
Were you thinking at the time like, hey, maybe you guys could put this footage on MTV?
No, I wanted to make like a weird experimental film. You know, that would just be like, you know, tribal things and like Einstürzen und pounding on rocks.
So this is not a weird experimental film? This is more straight documentary?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of weirdness in the film, but it's definitely being presented as a documentary. I mean, I've done a lot of interviews, so I think it'll have like experimental passages that'll kind of put you into an altered state if all goes well. But it's also very much telling a story,
And we're looking at, this is the show, oh, this is the Cornelius Project show?
yeah, that's
From the desert to the sea. That's a Jerry Dunphy line.
Exactly, very good. A native Angelino.
Wow,
you have to live here long enough to
native
get that
Angelino,
one.
over the age of 40 maybe, if you're lucky. So this is the group show. So you basically, the show in the gallery down in San Pedro that's going on now is documentation of these events. There's photographs.
Yeah, the concept is that, you know, Lori Steelink and I kind of originally, all of her stuff has to do with San Pedro. That's sort of the premise. And we did a show on a boat called Joy at Sea with the Minutemen and the Meat Puppets, Lawndale, Points of Friction. And so originally it was just going to be Joy at Sea, and then we expanded it to all the Desolation Center shows. And so it's photography documenting the shows, it's art by people that were involved in the shows, that were there, like Mark Dutcher has an original painting that he, as an example, original painting that he did,
Great.
Inspired by being at the Mojave Exodus show, and kind of, you know, so there's some, it's a combination of stuff, but it tells the story as you kind of go around the gallery.
Bruce, did you play all 4 of the desert shows?
No, I was involved in the first 2.
The first 2?
Savage Republic played at Mojave Exodus. That first one at the dry lake bed. It's called Soggy Dry Lake, by the way, east of Lucerne Valley.
Now, so is this a precursor to Burning Man?
Well, I would have said no until I started this documentary, and what ended up happening is that I was approached by Vice.com. They wanted to write an article, and they're like, can't you like figure out some connection with Burning Man? So there's a guy that I know from AMOK Books named John Law, who started the Cacophony Society up in the Bay Area. He was one of the original Burning Man guys. He was really the one who took the man from the beach in San Francisco,
to the
took
desert.
it out to the Black Rock Desert, whatever it's called. And so I said, talk to John Law, you know, see what he says. And he was like, absolutely. Oh. Because he was part of Survival Research Laboratories. He wasn't at the show that, you know, Bruce performed at and SRL performed at, but he'd heard about it, and it like became this.
It was a thing
in
of
his
legend,
mind.
yes.
Right. So he said, like, yeah, you know, I just had this idea about we should take our thing out to the desert. Yeah. so there's, and then he went on to be part of Burning Man for a long time until he felt like it sort of jumped the shark.
Till it got corporate.
Yeah.
Till it started making a lot of money. Ugh.
It's a tough call. But
And I'm assuming you weren't able to retire off of the profits from your desert.
I'm still working.
Yeah.
Making
So-
these independent films. Yeah.
So-
There's even documentation of the with a photocopy of the check that you had to write to the, what was it, the Bureau of Land Management.
Bureau of Land
for
Management.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Did you get
The Gila Monster Jamboree.
Did you get busted after the fact, or
After the last desert show I did,
Yeah.
which was with Sonic Youth and Meat Puppets, Red Cross, and Perry Farrell's earlier band, SciComm, they basically somehow tracked me down, and they said like, hey, you know, you were illegally using this place, and you know, we need money, and so we charge about $2 a head for dirt bike rallies, and how many people do you think were there? I mean, they're actually really nice about it. But
Okay.
in my 20s, that seemed like a lot of money, and I was just like, what the hell am I going to do? So anyway, I was trying to negotiate, etc., and then finally I agreed to like an amount of money, and then the Minutemen and the Nip Drivers, some other friends of mine, Lawndale did a benefit
Did a
at
benefit
the
to
Anti
raise
Club,
At the Anti Club, wow.
And so we had money, everybody had a good time, and it was.
You get the
all
door,
good.
Helen gets the bar, right? Okay, that was the deal at most of those clubs.
It scared me at the time though, because I was just kind of like, wow, I thought I was just doing these things and nobody was noticing, and all of a sudden the federal government.
The federal government was noticing. They really and they tracked you down.
Yeah.
Was the interesting thing, right?
And we also had to go back and clean up a lot of beer bottles.
Beer bottles?
Yeah.
You could have left those for future generations to study anthropologically. They're not into that, are they?
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, no, this is the first time I've felt good about leaving beer bottles out there.
Quick question: did you bring toilets?
We did, porta potties.
You had porta potties, wow.
In fact, that was how the sound man was able to find the location of, in the middle of a dry lake bed, where to set up the gear, and that's where the school buses came to. And
Okay, did you have the porta potties delivered? Like, hi, Andy Gump, can you just drive out in the middle of the desert and
Pretty
prop
much,
these up?
yeah. From like, Victorville or
And then everything is run by generators, right?
Yeah, and the first show we didn't realize that like one generator wasn't really enough to power a PA.
Okay.
And you got like, wind.
So you got 3 buses full of people paying to come to the show.
Right.
Does any word get out? Nowadays, of course, everybody has their cell phones. They would be all like, hey, the desert show's here, go here, make a left here. None of that.
No.
Like, they had to go with you. You had the captive audience, right?
Right. Well, the idea was that for like $12.50, I think, they would get a bus ride all the way out to the desert, and they would get to see these 2 great bands, and they would get a return trip, and we wouldn't tell them where they were going, partly for the mystery of it, and partly for the practical reason of like, we just didn't want a bunch of people driving there.
Good. Well, do we have any more shots of? That's the last one. Well, hey, oh, there's one more. Who's this?
Okay, that is the last desert show we did, called Gila Monster Jamboree, and that's the members of Sonic Youth setting up their gear before. This was their first West Coast show.
Wow.
Yeah. So
was Richard Edson still drumming for them, or it was already?
It was Bob Burt at that point.
Oh wow!
So Richard Edson had left.
Wow.
But if you look up to the left, my left, there's the Blue Oyster Cult symbol spray painted.
I see it.
I had nothing to do with that, but when Thurston Moore saw that, he goes, "That's where we're doing the show, right here under the Blue Oyster Cult symbol."
Oh man!
It was basically the same location where we had done Mojave Exodus, but like another side of the same dry lake bed.
The other side.
Yeah.
Blue Oyster Cult was not on the one side.
No.
It was on the other.
Even though the Minutemen were there, and they were huge.
And we're looking at the flag of Savage Republic.
That is what we're looking at. So that was, I drove out there the day before and figured the spot on the dry lake bed where we were going to be, and then I planted the flag. And so that was how everybody else sort of knew where to come.
Right.
That was where the porta potties came to. And
Well, last week on the show, one of our guests was Jennifer Finch, and she said that she couldn't go to your show because she was working for you, Bruce, and she had to watch The Office.
Wow.
Does this ring a bell?
Vaguely, yeah.
Vaguely?
Jennifer
but I
from
do
L7?
From L7, yeah.
Well, I do remember she was coming in and helping out the print shop. Yeah.
She was a guest last week.
So Susie Gardner from L7 was at the show with Gemma Elfman, and she contributed some Polaroids to the
movie?
show down in San Pedro. Yeah. Well,
To the show, and she's also
yeah, you
okay.
can see her.
All right.
stuff
So,
on
and there's shots
display.
at Cornelius Project now. People could, it's a great chance to buy photos of Sonic Youth, early Meat Puppets, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Savage Republic.
Savage
Minutemen.
Republic, Red Cross. Yeah. It's all. We're able to sell prints of all that
Awesome.
stuff, so.
Okay. When does the movie come out?
If all goes well, we will be premiering next spring. I'm going to be working on it up till the end of summer, and then festivals will be in the spring. So.
In the spring of next year. So you're in the editing process now?
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody out there had some great footage, is it still a chance to get in?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would
okay. If you were
welcome it.
there,
Yeah.
Grandma and Grandpa Punk Rocker, get a hold of Stuart. He's easy to find on Facebook. I found him.
Just Desolation Center. You can track me down.
Oh, all right. Well, Stuart Swezey.
Matt, a pleasure.
Bruce Licher, thanks for being guests on Modern Art Blitz. We'll be back right after this.